Good morning, everyone. This is lecture number 55 of Engineering Thermodynamics. In this lecture, we will see last mounting, that is high steam and low water safety valve. It serves the purpose of tools like high steam. When the steam pressure is high, it indicates it release the pressure inside the boiler. It escape the excess steam from the boiler. And low water safety valve, when the water level is low inside the boiler, it gives the alarm, it gives warning to the operator. The first function is the steam automatically escape out when the level of water falls below the certain level. When the water level falls below the certain level, the steam automatically escapes and it gives the sound like whistle, and it warns operator that water level has gone below the required level, so that operator can supply the water from feed pump. Second function, it automatically discharges the excess steam when the pressure of the steam rises above the certain pressure. If the steam pressure rises above the working pressure of the boiler, then it automatically discharges the steam, so that it can come back to the working pressure. Use, it is generally used on Lancashire or Cornish boiler. It cannot be used in mobile boiler. This is a schematic diagram of high steam low water safety valve. In this you can see this lower portion is the boiler shell. This lower portion is the boiler shell. This safety valve is directly mounted on the boiler shell, which is also called as boiler chest. Some part of the safety valve is located inside the boiler shell and some part is located outside. The inner part consists of a lever. On that lever, three weights are mounted. First is a float. It is a bigger weight which is submerged in the water. And at the opposite end, there is a balance weight. This weight is used for balancing the float weight W. The float weight W is bigger than balancing weight W1. How it balance now? Look at here, this weight is submerged. Since this is submerged in the water, its own weight reduces. Therefore the balancing weight can be balanced the bigger weight easily, because it is submerged. Hence, since it is submerged, its weight decreases because of the water. Therefore less weight can be used for balancing it. And the middle weight W2, middle weight is used for keeping this wall on the wall seat. Now the upper part consists of main wall. Upper part consists of main wall. Since it is high steam and low water safety valve, therefore it uses two valve. When the steam pressure is high, in that case this use V1, and when water level is low, then it use valve 2. Okay, therefore it uses two valve. Main valve V1 when steam pressure is high, and valve 2 V2 when water level is low. Now it consists of a casing. Inside casing, the main valve is located, and inside the main valve, spherical valve V2 is mounted inside the main valve, and this main valve is supported with a dead weight lever safety valve. It is a dead weight safety valve. The main valve is a dead weight safety valve because weight is mounted on the lever. Now this valve V2 is mounted on in the main valve V1 in the seat, and there is a gap, small gap in the main valve, between main valve and this spherical valve V2. Now this is the condition where there is low water level or no pressure of the steam. Now I will explain one by one when water level is low. When water level is low, this first diagram indicates the proper water level. Water level is proper. Now I will explain how water level decreases and how it works. Look at the second diagram. When water level decreases, this weight E moves in the downward direction. This water level moves in the downward direction. Now look at here this figure. When the water level is proper, this weight float weight E submerged in the water. Hence the low weight W1 is able to balance this float weight W. But when water level decreases, this float weight lowers. This float weight moves in the downward direction. In this case, weight W1 is not sufficient to balance this weight. Therefore, this lever rotates, this lever oscillates. Look at here, this is a spherical wall. At the lower end of the spherical wall, this is a flat face, and the lever has a pointer. When this weight moves in the downward direction, this weight W1 moves in the upward direction. This pointer lifts this spherical wall, and the steam from this end enters in the main wall V1, and main wall V1 has opening. From this opening, steam escape from the wall, and this steam escape with very high velocity. Due to very high velocity, it produces a sound like whistle, and it gives warning to the operator that water level has decreased in the boiler and you need to supply water in the boiler. This is the function of valve V2. Second, when steam pressure is high. Now the first diagram indicates there is no steam pressure. The boiler is operating under working pressure. When the steam pressure increases, steam from this pipe enters steam from boiler enters through this pipe, and it pushes the valve V1. When the pressure of a steam is such that it overcomes the inertia of weight, this valve moves in the upward direction and produces the cavity between valve and the pipe, and from the pipe steam escape from the boiler. This is the working of a main valve V1 when steam pressure is high. It consists of a main valve V1. Look at here, this is the main valve V1. It consists of main valve V1 known as a lever safety valve. You can say it as a lever safety valve because it is mounted on lever. In the center of the main valve, a seat for a hemispherical valve V2 is formed for low water operation. You can see inside the main valve there is a hemispherical valve mounted for low water operation. When the water level is low, this valve will operate. This valve is loaded directly by the dead weight attached to the valve by a long rod. Look at here, at the end of this rod there is a weight W. This weight W2 push this valve V2 on the seat. There is a lever which has a fulcrum. The lever has weight suspended at the end. This is a lever. It has a fulcrum, means it is a pivoted over here, and this has a weight on either side. This weight E float and this weight W1 balance weight. When float is fully immersed in the water, it is balanced by the weight W1 on the end of the lever. When this float weight is submerged in the water, this is being balanced by lower weight W1. When the water level falls, the weight E comes out of the water, and weight at the other end will not be sufficient to balance weight. When the water level decreases, this weight come out of the water and this moves in the downward direction, and the balancing weight is not sufficient to balance this weight, and it moves in the upward direction. Therefore, weight comes down E. Weight E comes down. There are two projections on the lever to the left of the fulcrum which comes in contact with the collar attached to the end. Look at here. There are two projections. This is one projection, this is second projection. When this weight comes down, this weight moves in the upward direction. When weight E come down, the hemispherical wall is lifted up, and the steam escapes with a loud noise which warns the operator. When this wall moves in the upper direction, you look at here, there is a pointer. Pointer moves on the flat surface. When the pointer moves, this it lifts the hemispherical wall. It lifts the hemispherical wall and provide space for steam to leave. And the steam leaves with a high noise. When the pressure in the boiler is a more than the working pressure, then steam lift main wall V1. When the pressure of a steam in the boiler is more than the working pressure, then steam moves from this pipe and it lifts the main wall V1. It lifts the main wall V1 and steam escapes from the boiler. Now pressure gauge. Next mounting is a pressure gauge. Pressure gauge is a very important mounting. In fact, all mountings are very important. If even single mounting is not working, we cannot start boiler. We need to replace that mounting first, then we need to start. Now pressure gauge, this is a Bourdon tube pressure gauge, and in power plant Bourdon tube pressure gauge is used. You might have seen this pressure gauge while filling the air in your vehicle. Look at here, the example I have shown. A person checking the pressure of a tire using Bourdon's tube pressure gauge. Now this is a casing of the Bourdon tube pressure gauge, and inside the readings you are the readings given is called as calibrated scale, and the pointer which shows the reading. And the lower end has a thread which is directly mounted on the boiler shell, or it is mounted with the help of pipe. The function of pressure gauge is to measure the pressure exerted inside the vessel. The function of pressure gauge is to check or measure the pressure of a steam inside the boiler. We are talking specially about boiler. This Bourdon tube pressure gauge used for various application, not in the boiler itself. It is used for various application. It is usually constructed to indicate up to double the maximum working pressure. Suppose maximum working pressure inside the boiler is a 50 bar, then the pressure gauge will be constructed for 100 bar. Its dial is graduated to rate pressure in kgf per centimeter square or bar or psi. Now the pressure gauge are manufactured of various unit. It is shown here bar. Okay. Even it is manufactured for the 2 units, for the 3 units. It may be manufactured for kgf per centimeter square, means kg force per centimeter square, or bar or pounds per square inch gauge. And whatever pressure indicated by the pressure gauge is called as a gauge pressure. At atmospheric pressure, pressure gauge gives 0 reading. There are 2 types of pressure gauge. They are Bourdon tube type pressure gauge and diaphragm tube type pressure gauge. But in this case, we will see Bourdon tube type pressure gauge. Now Bourdon tube type pressure gauge consists of a outer casing, circular outer casing. Look at here. This is circular outer casing which consists of a calibrated scale. Which consists of a calibrated scale means a reading. Here you can see 20, 40, 80, 100. These are the calibrated scale. Why it is called as calibrated scale? Because it has been checked to set for accurate reading. Therefore this is called as calibrated scale. Now this green pipe is a rubber tube. This green pipe is a rubber tube inside which the fluid flows. The one end of this pipe is called as a Bourdon tube. This green pipe, here it is shown by green color, but this is a rubber tube. This rubber tube, at the one end of the rubber tube, there is a socket which connects on the boiler shell, and at the another end, it is connected with a sector gear. It is connected with a sector gear through adjustable link. and this sector gear is in mesh with a pinion. This sector gear is in mesh with a pinion, and pinion is mounted on a spring. Pinion is mounted on a spring, and pointer is mounted on the pinion. Pointer is mounted on a pinion. When there is no pressure inside the tube is in an elliptical form. When the steam enters in the Bourdon tube, it tries to be straightened. When the steam enters in the Bourdon tube, it tries to be straightened. Since it is enclosed in a circular casing, it gets in a circular shape. As it gets in a circular shape, it pushes the adjustable link, and through the adjustable link, sector gear rotates. And it rotates the pinion. As the pointer is mounted on the sector gear, it shows the reading. When the pressure is released, spring unwound the pinion gear. And the pointer shows a reduced reading. Okay, I will explain the working again. When the steam or the any fluid enters in the Bourdon tube, initially the shape of Bourdon tube is elliptical. When the steam enters in the Bourdon tube tried to be straightened, but this Bourdon tube is enclosed in a circular casing. It becomes circular, and it pushes or it rotates the sector gear via linkage, and sector gear rotates the pinion. As the pointer mounted on the pinion, pointer shows the reading. Next, manhole. This is the photo of the manhole which is provided in the boiler. Manhole provides the opening for cleaning. The manhole is provided for cleaning, inspection and maintenance purpose. This is provided at suitable position on the boiler shell so that the man can enter into the boiler shell for inspection, maintenance and repair. The shape of the manhole is elliptical so that man can easily enter for inspection and repair. This hole is usually made in elliptical shape of the size convenient for the man to enter through this hole. The opening is closed by the steam tight cover. Next, mud box. This is a mud box. When the water is supplied to the boiler contains some impurities. When the water converted into steam, impurities get separated, and that impurities or the mud is collected in a mud box. Mud box is a collection chamber. Mud box is a collection chamber for collecting the mud which evacuated from the boiler by using the blow-off cock. Then steam trap. Now steam trap is used to separate the liquid part, that is water, from the steam, and it allows only dry steam to escape from the boiler. When the steam formed in the boiler, it consists of a mixture of dry steam and a wet steam, and it allows only dry steam to escape, and the wet steam is collected on the steam trap that condensed and it is separated. The steam trap is used to collect and automatically drain away the water resulted from the partial condensation of the steam without steam to escape with a condensate through wall. The wall after draining the condensate is closed. It presses the leakage of the steam from the trap. Next, anti-priming pipe. It is attached below the stop wall to avoid the water particle being carried away along with the steam. It prevents the water particle to carry away with the steam from the steam stop wall. It is located before the steam stop wall. From the steam stop wall, steam is supplied to the application area. But anti-priming pipe prevents the movement of a wet steam, prevents the movement of liquid particle from the steam stop wall. It has closed pipe with closed ends of 1 to 2 meter length. The top side of the pipe has perforation. When the steam passes through it, due to inertia effect, the moisture of the steam falls into the pipe and the steam with reduced moisture passes into the stop wall. Now accessories. Next part of this unit is accessories. In first part we saw different boilers, water tube boiler, fire tube boiler, then we started boiler mountings. Then this is the third part, accessories of the high pressure boiler. There are auxiliary parts required for steam boiler for their proper operation and for increase their efficiency. Now accessories, when we call about the accessories, consider a two-wheeler vehicle or a scooter, we use accessories. Accessories used for proper functioning or for increasing the efficiency of the vehicle. These are not required part. These are not required part. When any automobile is purchased from the showroom, it doesn't carry any accessories. You can run your vehicle without accessories also, but we use some accessories for improving the performance. Similarly, in the power plant also, if you don't use accessories, the power plant will run with uh, power plant will run properly, because mounting we are using, mountings are not a part of accessories. Accessories are the different part. Accessories are used for increasing the efficiency of the plant. The various accessories are: first, feed pump. The feed pump is a pump which is used to deliver the feed water to the boiler. Generally, this is used in water tube boiler. In fire tube boiler, in most of the time we don't use feed pump because it is a natural circulation boiler. A water tube boiler, Babcock and Wilcox is a water tube boiler. It is a natural circulation boiler. Don't use a feed pump. Feed pump is used where forced circulation is required for the high steam generation. It is desirable that the quantity of water supplied should be at least equal to that evaporation and supplied to the turbine. The feed pump required to be supply the amount of water which is getting evaporated at the same rate. Suppose 10 kg or 10 kg water is getting evaporated per hour, feed pump need to supply at least 10 kg water per hour. Two type of pump which are commonly used, which is rotary and reciprocating. This is a rotary feed pump and this is reciprocating feed pump. Next, injector. The function of injector is to supply water into a boiler. The injector is located at the end of the feed pump. It is commonly employed for vertical and locomotive boiler and does not find its application in large capacity high pressure boiler. An injector is also called as injector, steam injector, steam ejector, adductor, jet pump, or thermocompressor is a type of pump that uses the Venturi effect of a converging diverging nozzle to convert the pressure energy of a motive fluid to kinetic energy, which creates a low pressure zone that draws and enters a suction fluid. Look at here. Motive fluid is supplied. Motive fluid may be gas or the liquid is supplied through the nozzle. When it passes through the converging nozzle, this is a converging part and this is a diverging part. It consists of convergent and divergent nozzle. Convergent part is called as a nozzle and diverging part is called a diffuser. When the motive fluid is supplied through the motive fluid nozzle, here velocity in the converging part, velocity increases and the pressure decreases, and it creates a suction for the fluid which is to be supplied. It creates the suction for the fluid which is to be supplied in the diverging end. Again, kinetic energy gets converted into pressure energy. After passing through the throat on the injector, the mixed fluid expands and velocity is reduced, which results in recompressing the fluid by converting velocity or kinetic energy back into the pressure energy. When the motive fluid and the fluid which is to be supplied mixed in the throat, and when passing through the diverging part, again kinetic energy gets converted into pressure energy. The motive fluid may be liquid or steam or any other gas. The intent suction fluid may be gas, liquid or slurry, or duct laden gas steam. The given figure shows the typical modern injector. It consists of a motive fluid inlet nozzle. It consists of a motive fluid inlet nozzle and converging diverging outlet nozzle. This is a converging and diverging outlet nozzle. Water, air, steam or any other fluid at the pressure provides the motive force at inlet. This is the motive fluid is supplied which produces the motive force. The pressure energy of the inlet motive force is converted into kinetic energy in the form of velocity. When the fluid enters in the converging part, the pressure energy gets converted into kinetic energy. At the mixed fluid then expand in the diverging diffuser, the kinetic energy is converted back into the pressure energy. When the mixed fluid passes through the diverging part, again kinetic energy gets converted into pressure energy. Next assembly is evaporator. Here you can see this is the high pressure Lamont boiler, this is the evaporator, this is superheater and this is the economizer. Here I will explain the function of evaporator, superheater and economizer again. When the feed water is supplied, it passes through the economizer. Economizer preheats the water, and that heated water is supplied to the evaporator. In this case, it is first supplied to the boiler drum. Then from boiler drum it is supplied to the evaporator. In evaporator, water is converted into steam, and this steam is a wet steam. This is a saturated steam, not wet steam. This is saturated steam, but this cannot be a superheated because it is in contact with the water. Therefore, it needs to be supplied through superheated. Then it pass again to the boiler drum. Then from boiler drum it is supplied to the superheater, where it is heated again with the help of flue gases, and superheated steam is then supplied to the turbine. Evaporator is used in a high pressure boiler which is placed in the way of flue gases in the water tube boiler. Look at here, there is a furnace. In the furnace, flue gases move in the upward direction. First it passed through the evaporator, then superheater, then economizer. The arrangement can be different. Here it is flue gas first pass through the evaporator, then superheater. It may be like superheater is placed before the evaporator sometimes. In most of the case, superheater is placed before the evaporator so that the steam can be superheated with very high temperature. Hence, evaporator is a unit which consumes the energy of a flue gases in the boiler. Its main function is to convert the water into steam. The main function of evaporator is to convert water into steam. Now, what is meant by evaporate? Evaporator means to convert into vapor. Evaporator convert liquid into vapor, that is, it evaporates the water. Therefore, it is called as evaporator. These are some picture. This is a picture of a evaporator coil. Next is economizer. Now, economizer is a preheater of water. Economizer is located at the end of this coil and below the air preheater. When the feed water is supplied, to increase the efficiency of the boiler, we need to supply hot water so that it can take low heat. It can consume low heat for converting water into steam. Therefore, we need to preheat the water, and water is preheated in a economizer. And the economizer takes the heat from the flue gas. An economizer is a device in which the waste heat of the flue gas is utilized for heating the feed water. Economizer is a very important part of the boiler. With the help of economizer, the efficiency of the boiler increases and the evaporative capacity of the boiler is increased. since it preheats the water, it supplies saturated water in the evaporator. It supplies saturated water in the evaporator, and evaporator needs only latent heat to convert saturated water into saturated vapor, saturated steam. Economizer are of two types: independent type and integral type. There can be independent or integral, means it is enclosed in a furnace, or it is separated from the furnace. Then superheater. Superheater converts the saturated steam into superheated steam. Here only sensible heat is supplied to raise the temperature of steam. In the evaporator, steam is in a contact with the water, therefore it can produce maximum uh, what we can say, it produces maximum saturated steam. It cannot produce superheated steam. Evaporator can produce saturated steam but not superheated steam. To convert saturated steam into superheated steam, we need to pass through a separate piping, so that there is only a steam and that steam can be converted into superheated. Therefore, after passing through the evaporator, saturated steam is again supplied to the boiler, and only steam is allowed to pass through the superheater, where saturated steam is converted into superheated steam and superheated steam is supplied to the turbine. The function of superheater is to increase the temperature of the steam above its saturation point. Superheater increases the temperature of the steam above the saturation point. Suppose at atmospheric pressure the saturation temperature is 100 degrees Celsius. Means evaporator can produce steam at 100 degrees Celsius maximum at normal pressure, at normal atmospheric pressure. But if you want steam at a higher pressure, then we need to supply the steam from the superheater, and superheater increases the temperature above saturation point. Whatever type of boiler is used, the steam will leave the water at its surface and pass into the steam pipe. Steam formed above the water surface in the shell boiler is always saturated and cannot become the superheated in the boiler shell, as it is constantly in contact with the water surface. If the superheated steam is required, the saturated steam must be passed through the superheater. If the saturated steam is required, then if the superheated steam is required, then saturated steam need to pass through the superheater. This is simply a heat exchanger where additional heat is added to the saturated steam. Here evaporator, then superheater, economizer, then air preheater. These are heat exchangers which exchanges the heat. In water tube boiler, the superheater may be an additional part suspended in the furnace area, where the hot gases will provide the degree of superheat required. Now look at here. This is the additional diagram I have shown here. This is the water tube boiler. The water is circulating naturally here. Water is circulating naturally. The hot water moves in the upward direction, and the water which has converted into steam is located at the upper portion. Okay, and it has been heated with the help of flue gases. It has been heated with the help of flue gases. Now, in the way of flue gases, first superheater is provided. When the steam which is collected at the upper end of the boiler drum is passes through the superheater. Consider at a normal pressure, here the steam is at 100 degrees Celsius, and the steam when passes through the superheater, steam is converted into superheated, means temperature can be more than the saturated, means more than the 100 degree if the pressure is normal. These are the superheater tubes. Then air preheater. Air preheater is used for heating the air which is being supplied for the furnace. This is a furnace, and along with a coal we supply air for the proper combustion, because combustion takes place at the presence of oxygen, and we supply air for the combustion purpose. And when we supply directly atmospheric air temperature is very low, and it contains moisture also. It contains moisture also, which can degrade the combustion process. Therefore, we need to supply hot air. We need to supply hot air. Now, that atmospheric air is passes through the air preheater. In the air preheater, atmospheric air gets heated, and that hot air is supplied to the furnace. Now, this atmospheric air is heated in the air preheater with the help of flue gases. In the furnace, the flue gases formed is first hit heats the water in the evaporator, then steam in the superheater, then water in the economizer, then air in the air preheater. The function of air preheater is to increase the temperature of air before it enters the furnace. It is generally placed after the economizer so that the flue gases pass through the economizer and then to the air preheater. Usually there are three types of preheater, three types of air preheater: tubular, plate type and regenerative type. This is the first preheater, regenerative air preheater, stationary plate regenerative air preheater. Here you can see from this direction air enters, and from this upper portion flue gas enters. Look at here the direction. Air is moving in the upward direction since air is being heated. As the air is being heated, it moves in the upward direction, and flue gases hits the air. Therefore, the temperature of flue gas reduces. Okay, when the air supplies through the air preheater, it absorbs the heat from the flue gas, and the outgoing air is hot air which is being supplied to the furnace. Instead of air duct in the preheater are rotated so that the alternately exposed section of the heating plate element to the upflowing cool air. Look at here, it is been rotated. As indicated in the adjacent diagram, adjacent drawing, there are rotating inlet air duct at the bottom of the stationary plate, similar to the rotating outlet air duct at the top of the stationary plate. This plate is a stationary and this is a rotary drum. This is a rotary drum, or we can say duct. As it is rotating, the more air can come in contact with the flue gas, and the temperature can be increased at a higher value. Next, this is a tubular type. In tubular type, tubes are used. In tubular type air preheater, tubes are used. Through the tubes flue gases flows. And from this pipe air is supplied, and it uses 3 to 4 baffles. It is 3 baffles. Here 2 baffles are used, means it is called as a 3 pass. First, air enters from this direction and leaves from the left end. Then from the left end enters in this direction and leaves from the right end. From right end to it enters in the from right end it enters and leaves from the left end, means 3 pass. First, second, third. This is called a 3 pass tubular type air preheater. A bundle of vertical tube. Means these are bundles of vertical tube through which the flue gases flows downward. In the downward direction, and exchanges the heat with the ambient air flowing horizontally across the exterior of the tube, and it exchanges flue gases exchange the heat with the ambient air which is flowing across this vertical tubes, bundle of vertical tubes, and it passes 3 to 4 times so that it can absorb more and more heat from the flue gases. Baffle are usually provided so that these are the baffle plates. Baffle are usually provided so that the air flows across the tube a number of times. The baffles are provided so that air can be moved across the tube number of times. For example, as shown in the adjacent diagram, the air flow across the tube 3 times and is referred as a 3-pass tubular air preheater. The air passes across the tubes 3 times, first, second and third. Therefore, it is called a 3-pass tubular air preheater. The same as above, except that the flue gases flow downward rather than the uh, flue gases flows upward rather than downward. A bundle of horizontal tubes through which the air flows and exchanges the heat with the hot flue gas flowing downward across the tube bundles. In some design, there may be a three separate tube, horizontal tube bundle, one above the another. The air enters the lower tube bundle from the right hand side, exit on the left hand side. From the right hand side, air enters and leaves from the left hand side. Then from left hand side, it enters and leaves from the right hand side. Then it enters from the right hand side and leaves from the left hand side. Finally, the air enters the upper tube bundle on the right hand side and exit on the left hand side. Finally, it enters from the right hand side, it enters from the left hand side, and this air is supplied to the furnace. In essence, such a diagram is just similar to the three-pass design, the above, except that the air is in the tube rather than the outside the tube.